Hi, I'm Dean Perrine, Executive Vice President of JSA, and on behalf of NetSapiens, I'd like to welcome you to a very special Snapshot Virtual Roundtable. Today, we're talking about market disruptors and the changing face of digital transformation, particularly as it relates to workforce mobility and the new normal. Joining me today are three established thought leaders in the industry. We have Mr. Albert Diaz. Albert is the CEO of RingLogix. We have Mr. Micah Singer. Micah is the managing partner at Teammate Technology, and Mr. Jason Byrne. Jason is the Senior Vice President of Products and Marketing at NetSapiens. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Likewise, thank you.
You got it. Albert, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What has the necessity to move the office to the home taught us about the importance of remote workforce mobility and the existing communications and collaboration technologies currently in the market?
So there's a lot of cool products out there, right? Arguably the coolest product of all, I think, my opinion, is Teams. It's probably one of the ones that's seen the most adoption besides Zoom. But what I'm noticing is that while we have a lot of cool solutions, none of them are perfect, none of them are complete. Most of them are generic solutions trying to help the average business, but most of them also miss the mark on specific verticals. So at the moment, I think that everyone's doing the best that they can with the tools that they have, and we're doing pretty good. But we do need to see some focus on products that are designed for verticals that specifically help teachers, lawyers, doctors, and certain industries that have certain needs.
Excellent. Micah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, with what's gone on lately, I think what we've learned is that a lot of the tools that we have coming into COVID are pretty awesome, actually. And I would say pretty awesome as to echo what Albert says, as sort of a 1.0 version of what's possible. And so what we've seen is, the ones that really benefited have been Slack, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. I mean, but all the others have risen as well. I mean, all the other collaboration tools. So I think, we were lucky. A lot of people were able to seamlessly move to remote working with adequate tools, not awful, but what I'm excited about is what comes next and where these products are going to go in the future.
Excellent, because we're going to talk about that stuff. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what Albert mentioned on verticals, we just did a webinar there with Mondigo, which brings all the CRM integrations in. They're seeing a huge specialization and adding all these, hundreds of different verticals are looking for certain CRM integration. Bringing that vertical niche and that vertical value that was missing before has been one of the biggest things that we've seen. Certainly the shift in the cloud. I mean, that cloud, the value that everyone's been talking about, why move to the cloud? Well, now everybody sees it, and they've seen it very, very quickly. And that's been one of the biggest shifts. Shift to the cloud, and now it's more vertical niches. Which of those verticals is growing the most? And that's where people are lasering in on. I just did a webinar this morning with Grandstream, an endpoint vendor, and they showed the mix was, a big shift from desktop phones. 2/3 of the market was desktop phones, and overnight almost, they've gone to 2/3 is now video phones and Wi-Fi. And that's a huge shift in such a short space of time.
Yeah, and we're absolutely seeing that transition is happening right before our eyes. But as that happens, we're seeing a little bit of M&A, some big M&A actually, in the industry as some folks kind of see the potential for workforce mobility and workforce enablement and things like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, and Jason, will stay with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how M&A might be shaping the existing landscape for UCaaS? And what are some of the kind of key differentiators that folks like NetSapiens provide?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at the intersection of where unified communications was and has been for years, where it wasn't just around the PBX, it certainly was the voice of the core, but there's always been video conferencing around that. And then you have the standalone players in collaboration like Zoom and some of the other folks that are out there. Now you're seeing in the space of 3 or 4 months, a huge sort of cataclysm, a big explosion in having both, and the M&A activity that's going on is certainly around trying to bring all that value together under one seamless sort of pane of glass. You just have to look at Microsoft acquisition of Metaswitch. Again, strong focus on voice, but more particularly on mobile. And it seems that's going to be the mainstay for that integration. If you listen to some of the folks or the messaging coming out of there, but there seems to be more and more activity from a partnership standpoint, which is obviously the first step in the dance and the M&A activity. But it's really bringing in that sort of value from a contact center to a unified communications to collaboration, all under one roof, one pane of glass. And then on a differentiation side, the feature sets are very, very similar. It's tough to differentiate in this space. So what NetSapiens has done, and from the very beginning, and is the only one out there, is differentiate on the business model, the pricing model. But we don't charge on a per seat basis. We our service providers use our platform and only pay on an active session, and that's a huge disruption in an established multi-billion-dollar market. And that's one of the reasons why we're growing so fast, is this disruption in the business model. Less so, we think we've got the best engineers in the world. We think we got the best feature sets, but reality is it's very, very similar to a lot of folks. We're trying to differentiate more in the business model, enable service providers to really leverage in each of those verticals.
Got it. Albert, your thoughts?
So, there's this whole thing, pioneers get slaughtered while settlers prosper. And I don't necessarily know if that's going to be true here. The fact of the matter is we have behemoths, we have the Microsoft, we have the Zoom, we have Slack. I don't think they're going anywhere. But we tend to think that bigger and more powerful are advantages in any competition. That's usually true, but it's not always true. I think we're going to see a lot of smaller players that are nimbler, leaner, they can operate quicker, they have less politics, that are going to start designing really cool, really focused products. I mean, including the guys that you're talking to here right now, right? And I think that if we get into the M&A space, I think what you're going to see is a lot of really cool companies, a lot of sharp minds creating real niche products that really focus on a specific need and perhaps try to bring some normalcy back into this new behavior of ours, which me personally, I think this is somewhat short-lived. I think there's a lot of I think we've rediscovered what we're able to do. I think that we realize that we can work remotely or from home or from anywhere more often than not. But I do think that humans will be humans and we will revert a little bit. And in that process, we're going to see some new products, some new ideas, some new solutions that take care of our new norm. And I think that's where a lot of the M&A is going to happen. You're going to see some of the behemoths and some of the mid-sized guys acquiring the small players that are coming up with really cool products.
Excellent points, Albert. Thank you. Micah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I see, well, first of all, I see that, productivity, sort of the computer desktop is communication is a super important tool in that desktop. So that's why you see success of some of these team collaboration platforms. And I think, right now, really there's a land grab for these spaces, these platforms that are windows, a single pane of glass. I think someone mentioned to put everything you can do in them and the packaging of them. And so there's a lot of power in controlling that. And the M&A, I mean, things like Slack's done pretty well, but they're going to be acquired by Google or Apple or somebody bigger, or Amazon, because they've created a ton of value. And what we've all realized is these portable workspaces that can go to our mobile, our tablet, wherever, that have everything in them, are really great to work for knowledge workers like all of us. So controlling the platform is really important. And then what do you add on to it, and how do other applications integrate to it? So it's this weird, it's sort of like, it's not a Wild West, because it's controlled by Microsoft or Google or Slack, or somebody's telling us what to build and how to build it. And we're just trying to make really cool things in there. I see it moving in that direction, and M&A sort of flows from that. Why did Apple buy, or why did Microsoft buy Metaswitch? Infrastructure play to extend what they, their platform deeper into communication networks. We'll see more of that. I think you'll see, we've built something that's an integration between PBXs and Microsoft Teams. So I think, if Microsoft decides we need to be able to support that, or we don't want to support that, one of those decisions could be really good for me and one could be really bad, but we're all sort of at the mercy of the rules of some of these bigger players, which, like Amazon's done with Marketplace for sellers, and all kinds of platforms have done around the world, around our technology world. So it's fascinating, but complex.
Yeah, absolutely. And you heard it here first, folks. As far as the M&A is concerned, well, it'll be interesting. We should all talk about this again here in about 6 months. But Micah, we're going to stick with you. I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal ball and talk to us a little bit about how you see unified communications and collaboration, the industry ultimately changing the kind of the face of digital transformation. It seems like we've made an about face a little bit here over the first 6 months of the year. What do you see the next 6 months of the year looking like?
Yeah, that's I don't know if I have that's a big crystal ball. Mine's a little smaller, but I'll try. One of the things I said just before was that this integration of sort of productivity, things you do on your desktop, with communications, is really, I think, really important. I think, to my mind, I mean, I've probably read this somewhere, but it reminds me of sort of the battle for the desktop, the operating system, in a computer, that was happening in like the 70s and 80s. This is a battle for this platform, and Microsoft obviously wants to control, because they control the last one too. But there will be different camps. The equivalent of Apple is maybe Slack or someone else, and I think, in terms of how we work and what software we use, I think that's what's changing. And it's a lot more portable. So remote workers, moving workers, at wherever they want to be, it's possible. I think we'll see a lot more questions about network and bandwidth. You mentioned that one at the top, Dean. You can't, biggest complaint of remote workers isn't what they can do, it's the speed of their internet. Nowadays, so there's a lot they can do. Maybe it's some what they can do, but mainly it's that. So yeah, I mean, it's still I think it's still a lot of growth ahead of us in terms of this transformation that's taking work, at least, into full digitization.
Yeah, absolutely. Albert, your thoughts?
So, I mean, we're definitely in a crazy and cool time, right? And I think that if this pandemic or this situation that we're in would have happened 5, 10, 15 years ago, it'd be really different. The fact of the matter is, like Jason said, right, we've had a huge shift from devices to soft phones, web apps, things of that sort. But the reason that shift was made possible is because the tools that these applications run on, the machines that they run on, are more powerful, more capable. We have much better bandwidth today than we did even 3, 4 years ago. We have much better smartphones. We have much better laptops, much better cameras. So the truth is, we were in a much better position to be able to accelerate the adoption, okay? What do I think is happening? I think telecom in general will always exist, but voice is no longer a product. Voice is a feature, right? Even when we went from TDM to VoIP, voice was still a big product. Even with hosted PBX, it was a very feature-rich product. But now what you're seeing is you're having solutions like Teams, where voice is really just a small piece of it. You have other really cool products out there. Like there's a company, well, I guess let's not say any companies right now, right? Or there's a company called Glio. We'll give them a little pitch. And what they're doing is they're doing, traditional Teams-like voice solutions, but then they're adding features that companies actually need, like co-browsing and other functions. So what I think is happening is that I think that little by little, we're going to talk less, but we're going to communicate more. We're just going to do it in different channels. You're going to see, and look, it's already happened, right? We already have chat, we already have SMS, we have video, we have voice, all into single apps. What we're going to see is we're going to see more communication methods and more mechanisms, more individual products being unified. And unified communications, I think 2, 3 years from now, is going to be very different than what we see today. It's going to be 5, 10, 15 different channels, all on a single pane of glass, and with much better management, not just of the conversations themselves, but of the people we're having the conversations with. Better history, better tracking, and just a better overall solution for businesses.
Excellent. Jason, you get the last thoughts here, man.
Yeah, what a great, you gotta trademark that phrase, Albert. Talk less, but communicate more. I love it. That's exactly where the industry's going. You look at Slack trying to cannibalize the email, and that's coming fast. It's coming. There's so many different channels that folks want to use and be able that persistent, meeting room. That's where the industry's going. And now you've got, with the assistants, what we haven't touched on is what AI and machine learning brings to all of this and all of those different channels. And that's something I think that the industry is going to embrace. So yes, we'll definitely be talking less, communicating more across even more channels, which is going to cause its own problems. And I think that's where some of the machine learning will kick in as well. So a lot of innovation going on, a lot of integration to bring best of breed functions, like I think Albert and Micah mentioned. We integrate with Micah's company and tool so we can embrace Microsoft Teams. You don't want to go head to head with these guys. Let's embrace them, bring them in in the same tent so we can all go together to capture some market share. So I think those are the big points. It's we will be using more channels. We will try and get them all under a pane of glass. The average I think I saw was 2 or 3 different UCaaS providers per, in each of the SMBs out there. That's crazy, right? Having a collaboration solution, a UC solution, a contact center solution. How do you integrate? How do you get that under to have a better user experience, knowing that Albert was the one who called me or Micah, knowing what the last experience was so we can start where we left off? That has to come together or else the industry will fail. But it is coming together and it's coming fast. So I love the talk less, communicate more. It's coming, and I think the AI is certainly going to be a big assistant in that space for our industry as a whole.
Yeah, Jason, you bring up a host of other topics that we should probably discuss on another roundtable. AI, machine learning, the user experience, to name a few. But guys, that's really all the time that we have. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your day today. So thank you very much for being here.